All right. Perfect. I can see myself, and I'm
Okay.
assuming everybody can see my mugshot.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great.
All right. Good. So thanks a lot, and appreciate being invited on this forum. And really, I think, I mean, some of the questions and the traffic that I've seen on the Telegram chat has been really exciting. So, it's good to be invited here.
Yeah.
So, Andy, as you said, let me kind of
Mhm.
spend about 5-10 minutes, well, not
Sure.
even 5-10 minutes, a couple of minutes just to kind of give you a little bit background about myself and,
Sure.
the company. Yeah.
That'd be
So
great.
I am based in Singapore. A company is based in Singapore. I'm a permanent resident here.
Hmm.
I started my career actually in marketing. I was in Procter and Gamble in brand management, one of the
Right.
better brand management marketing companies in the world.
Hmm.
After that, I was I ran a startup in India,
Hmm.
uh, and went back to India, and I was shuttling between India and Singapore. And after having kind of exited out of the startup, I started working for a consulting company which was run by the professor for in Harvard called Clayton Christensen. Clay Christensen, if you ever heard the term disruptive innovation,
Hmm.
this guy is the one who kind of really coined it. There was a book that he released in 1999 called Disruption, and that term disruptive innovation and how and what is disruption, there's a very specific theory behind it, was basically started by him, and it was done on the basis of a bunch of research that he did across companies for the last 50 years. And what he described was what are the conditions that lead to disrupting an industry. There are certain conditions that have to be in place for a disruptor to kind of dislodge it. The big famous example that we all probably know in our generation is BlackBerry being displaced or disrupted by iPhone. Was the biggest brand that was there, and suddenly now they're basically scrambling, and now I think Nokia has bought them and just completely disappeared, right? So the reason I kind of say that as a little bit of background is because I was actually working with a few corporates as consulting within Singapore in telecom and in banks. And when you were talking about how do you kind of assess a company or an innovation idea, and we said, what crowdfunding seems to be a great idea to kind of do that. And I kind of went from that, internal incubation and setting up of a crowdfunding platform for a corporate to thinking, what, the space is actually quite ripe for having something which is much more public, because at that time there was no public debt crowdfunding in the market. And I went down that rabbit hole, if you will. And I keep telling everybody I went to MAS for the first time. I said, you know what, I want to do a crowdfunding platform. And they said, oh, that's great. So they assembled 20 people, the Monetary Authority of Singapore. The associate got 20 people in a room and said,
Wow.
okay, now can you just explain to us what is this animal called crowdfunding? We've kind of heard about it. Would be good to kind of learn about it. So I actually ran a session for them of what crowdfunding is and why it could be the next disruption for the financial markets. So from starting from there, we kind of build this out, and we got registered in 2016 January. So now it's almost been 18 months now, actually coming up to 2 years now
Hmm.
of being in business. So yeah, and my partner and co-founder is Bikash. So
Hmm.
he's a banker. He used to be the CEO of Standard Chartered Korea. And
Wow.
before that, he used to run the credit rating agencies in India and in the region.
Hmm.
So if you can imagine, in this business, one of the big things that we really do is assessing what the borrower is, and we have to do it in scale. So the
Right.
model, the credit scoring model, is really the engine behind it.
Hmm.
And a lot of that experience that Bikash brings from his banking experience and credit rating experience kind of adds into how we kind of assess these companies that we have. And fingers crossed, I guess. We haven't had a default yet, and all our lenders have till that date kind of recovered all their money back. So there's never been a problem where you've not kind of received your capital back.
Hmm.
But I think the team that we have is kind of just built around people like me who are consulting slash strategy consulting and startup people, and you've got Bikash and others who are from the banking and traditional financial industry background. Yeah. Does that help, Andy?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it helps the group to understand who you are, and definitely, yeah. It helps. At least we know what's the background and the co-founder, the whole team. I think that's really helpful. All right.
Right.
So we're gonna get started with some questions from the team first, and then I will alternate between the team and the chat, so that
Right.
we could cover some topics here. All right. All right. So actually, let's see. So you mentioned you went for an interview with MAS, right? I mean, I'm not sure whether that was a pleasant one. I mean, 20. so, so, I mean, just out of curiosity, right? Tell us how it went, how tough it was. I mean, it's a how should I put it? It's a scary experience, right? Like, how was it?
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
I mean, one of the things that we need to kind of understand about MAS is MAS is very, very conscious of how credible they are in the region and in
Right.
the world, right? I mean, Singapore is one of probably four, financial hubs in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very, very clear that, if we have built this reputation over the last 50 years, 25 to 30 years, we are not going to let it go easily, right?
Definitely.
So the whole idea for them is not about kind of making it difficult for you. It's
Mm-hmm.
just making sure that they really think and feel comfortable that if I were to allow you to get a license or to do something in this country, you make sure that you do not impinge on the reputation of Singapore, right?
Right.
So when we started by the experience, for me, it was actually kind of interesting because they were actually came in with a learning experience. Look, we really don't know what it is.
Right.
Our management, Ravi Menon, keeps telling us that we need to do fintech, fintech, fintech. I'm
Uh-huh.
not really sure what that means. I only work with banks and hedge funds. So he
Right.
explained that to us. It was a very pleasant meeting. But
Okay.
but then then the funny thing is from there when the next steps I came back and say, oh great, we got a license and congratulations.
Right.
Then they said, well, that's a slightly different discussion because that here are the forms, and it took us around 9 months
Wow.
from the time we put an application into getting the form, and then that was the painful part. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason I say it was painful is not because they were trying to be difficult, but the whole idea was, look, Akshay, we want to make
Yeah.
sure that you don't mess up our reputation globally. So, and I keep telling everybody, just because you have money in
Yeah.
your base capital
Mm-hmm.
does not mean you will get a license in Singapore. Those are two very, very different things.
Right.
Uh, it is completely independent of each other, and chances are most probably
Mm-hmm.
actually MAS will probably say, no, we don't think you're ready to get a license.
Right.
Just for perspective and a reason, before we got licensed, or
Mm-hmm.
they introduced license in Singapore, there were
Mm-hmm.
15 crowdfunding platforms in Singapore. Everybody's saying, I do crowdfunding.
Wow.
Um, After that, now they're four. You know, the
Yeah.
remaining 11 just didn't make the cut because
Yeah.
they just couldn't get their act together from an internal process standpoint, the KYC, the due diligence. So we're actually quite proud that we're one of only four crowd lending platforms that are licensed by the Singapore government. Not the rest 11 are just disappeared.
Wow. Okay. Great. All right. So if you find it's an interesting experience, Akshay, that's awesome. So anyway,
I'm one of probably the minority.
I'm like, if it's me, I'll be like, okay. Anyway, so okay, great. So Crowd Genie was started say 2 years back, right? Did I get a timeline right? Okay, so 2 years back. So it has been focusing on SME companies in Singapore mainly, right? So what market are we targeting right now? As you move towards the ICO, where are we expanding towards, or what projects are we looking at?
See, the overall the vision that I have is of building out essentially an exchange
Right.
where you can make and tokenize any asset class and make it for an Asia wide audience. So, for instance, I should suppose there's somebody who wants to get a loan to have a fleet of Uber cars in Jakarta.
Right.
Now, the investor in Philippines should be able to kind of invest in that asset class completely easily and have the confidence, more importantly, to be able to make sure that he does own the part of the asset, right?
Right.
And that's important because it's easy to kind of transfer money in this region, but it's not easy to kind of prove ownership that easily.
Makes
And that's
sense.
where blockchain comes in. because ownership with the blockchain, it's now completely international. There are no boundaries anymore, right? And as a result of it, I can, for instance, say, you know what, out of the, let's say, $1 million or $2 million loan for the fleet of cars, $100 is being bought by the investor in Philippines, and I can actually track that with the blockchain. And that's a lot of banks have still not kind of got their heads around how liberating that is and how disruptive that could be for their business, because there are no gatekeepers anymore. The guy directly in Philippines can invest in an asset in Jakarta without having to go through a lot of loopholes and kind of paying through money to different intermediaries along the way. It's direct investment, and I think that's what our aim is. Now, that being said, it's very easy to kind of lay that out, but if you kind of break that out and you unpeel the onion, if you will, there are actually three parts to this. Part one is, how do you get people into the ecosystem to begin with? All authorities you have to do KYC and due diligence. And while we may not like it in this crypto world, the reality is regulators do want you to see that. So if somebody says, I'm going to be allowing you to kind of do this whole, crowdfunding or investment without a lot of due diligence, those authorities will just not give you a license. It's as simple as that. So, that having that done is very important. And we have done that for our current business already. So we actually feel very confident being able to do that. The second element is actually assessing the lender itself, the analytics. How do I make sure that the credit price, the interest that I'm charging, is actually correct for the risk that people are taking? And that is, again, something that we do, but we need to now start doing it on a regional basis. And that requires, what are the kind of variables that you look at in a company? What are the kind of, asset classes that you want to kind of play in? What are the kind of background of the promoters that you want to look at and what you want to not look at? And then what are the kind of different interest rates that you need for different countries? And that's the kind of analytics that need to kind of go behind it. And then the last thing is when you start doing the exchange, where you start tokenizing these assets and say, what, we betted this, we think this is the right price. And now we kind of putting it on the exchange with our name behind it, with the confidence that, we think this is the right price. You should be able to kind of invest in it. And then if later, if you don't want to kind of hold the asset, you should be able to sell it to somebody else. I heard you earlier saying people are looking for a Christmas, some funds to spend. Now, if I'm a Filipino, Christmas is a big thing for me. I should be able to sell my stake in the asset very quickly to somebody else and monetize my holding. Now, again, this is not possible right now in the old traditional financial industry. But with that exchange, that allows that to happen. Yeah? So it's really those three things that need to come together strongly.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's talk about how. Let's see. Okay, let's talk about Crowd Genie first, and then we could go into the ICO portion later. All right. There's some questions with regards to the technicalities of it. So first of all, how does Crowd Genie makes money? So this is quite direct. So
no, it's a great question. I'll give you the short answer, and I'll give you a little bit perspective of how how that impacts the token also.
Sure.
So the short answer is Crowd Genie takes a listing fee from the borrowers. It depends on what the percentage is based on how risky we think the borrower is, or which country the borrower is from. And at the end of every month, when the repayment happens, we take an admin fee, which is a certain percentage that is taken out from the repayment before it is passed on to the lenders. So we take a little bit right up front and a little bit from the borrowers. Our fees the whole crowdfunding model works on a high volume business. So we typically run at around between 3 to 7%, depending on the riskiness of the borrower as our revenue model, right? Now that's the easy answer. Now let me just pull back a little bit from a token standpoint. So now, what if you've seen our white paper? Our token is released by a related company called CGSPV, and that CGSPV will become a lender on the platform, right? So the platform will be separate, and these guys will become lenders on the platform. So whenever, let's say, $100 comes back from the borrower, Let's say Crowd Genie takes 2% out of that or 3% out of that. $98 comes to CGSPV. That $98 is available, 80% of that is available for repurchase of the buybacks of the tokens from the market, right? So from a cash flow standpoint, if you really do the math, if you see that what's going to happen is that you are getting the principal repaid every month plus the interest coming back to the token distributing company, CGSPV. And as a result of it, it's actually a very, very high cash flow and positive cash flow business. Because you're getting the interest and principal back every month. Unlike, say, in a bank where you say, you know what, I'm giving you a loan for 12 years or for 2 years, you pay me back after 2 years with interest. Whereas in this case, you're getting your cash back on a monthly basis, and that helps you that helps us rather get the cash to buy back from the market.
Right. So I have a question. So for me, if let's say I'm the borrower, all right, and I have to, okay, so let's go to the lender and borrower perspective. If let's say I'm a lender and I want to get onto the platform, what are some of the due diligence or KYC? So I have to perform, a lot of checks and paperwork and all that, right? From Crowd Genie itself.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So now, as a borrower's perspective, what do I make monthly? Like after the monthly repayment, do I make it back in CG tokens? Do I make it back in Ethereum? Do I make it back in fiat? So what exactly do I gain in that sense?
Great. So there are two aspects to this. Aspect one is what is going to be today, just after the public sale closes, and what is the plan after, according to the roadmap, after say 6 to 8 months, right? Right now, where it is going to be that you as a borrower will get funds you will get the funds in fiat, and then you will use it and repay back in fiat, and we will then convert it into coins and pay back our token holders in coins. Or if they choose, we can kind of pay it back in tokens also, right?
Okay.
6 to 8 months down the road, we will actually start integrating CG tokens into the platform itself. So what that allows us to do is, as a lender, what that allows you to do is that it allows you to lend directly into the borrower. And people who use CG tokens to lend, they actually get a significant discount in the fees. So if I'm taking 3 to 5% as my fees, you don't need to pay, probably you will pay no more than 1%, because it's I want to incentivize people kind of getting and using the CG tokens.
So it's kind of like encouraging the community to build up.
Correct. Because we want to kind of make sure that these tokens have an intrinsic value on the platform itself.
Right.
So that's really the plan down the road. And but for the timing, it's going to be fiat to begin with, and then we head to CG tokens.
Right. So if it's fiat, okay, this is just a side question. If it's fiat, then if let's say I'm based in Philippines, for instance, right? So how am I going to get back my fiat? Is it through the platform? Is it going to be stuck on my dashboard, or is it going to be into my bank? How will it work? I mean, I'm just curious.
So right now we have we do have one Filipino lender, and we actually have a digital wallet with us. So the person keeps the money with our escrow agent in Singapore, and when he wants the money back, the escrow agent directly kind of remits it back to his Philippines account. So if you're a Filipino, you get the money back. If you choose, you can get your money back into your bank account.
Right. So what if there are countries that have not have any partnership with Crowd Genie? Take for example Brazil or something. So what could happen possibly? Just wondering.
No, I mean it's actually based on an individual, not the country. It really doesn't. As long as your bank is on the SWIFT network globally, for me it doesn't really matter. You could be Brazilian, you could be US citizen, doesn't matter.
So it gets into your e-wallet in that sense.
That's right.
All right, cool. Okay, that was my biggest question. So now I understand. Okay. So let me see.
Can I just talk a little bit more on the tokens and how we use it, because I think there's something which I'm guilty about, the white paper and all of that, but I think doesn't come out. Is the reason we think token can also be an interesting thing is it allows us to play with driving the right behavior.
Right.
So for instance, there's this thing that we're talking about, reputation tokens.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the biggest challenges that we have in any lender is making sure people pay on time, right? Or
Right.
the fact that I can get immediate real-time access to your books so
Mm-hmm.
that I know that, hey, you're at the edge, you may not pay this month. I can either cut you off
Mm-hmm.
or I inform the lenders that this borrower is going to get late, right?
Yep.
Now, this currently, I can't do that right now with the fiat. But
Okay.
what we're trying to do is we kind of trying to build a system in which we as the platform owner itself will provide CG tokens to the borrowers
Mm-hmm.
on top to drive the right behavior. So if you paid on time, you actually get CG tokens back for yourself.
Okay.
So if you've got a loan of 100 CG tokens, now you get 110 CG tokens.
Okay.
So, but you're paying the interest on only the 100 tokens that you got, right? So you're
Right.
getting actually more money, quote unquote, for the same interest rate. So actually the interest rate kind of comes down, right? And then and we will be actually tracking this in the digital wallet separately, which says that how many CG reputation coins have you kind of earned over the last 6 to 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
So as a lender, you're saying that, hey, you know what, this is borrower A. I'm paying him less interest rate, but I'm paying him less because he's actually accumulated a lot of reputation tokens,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I feel a little bit more confident that he's going to pay back on time. And
Right.
another borrower is actually giving me higher interest rate, but he doesn't have as many coins. So his reputation is lower. So, well, I just don't want to take that risk. Or you play the other way around, you would say that, oh, well, if the other person is got lower tokens, I may still go with him because I want the higher interest rate. I
Right.
understand the risk I'm getting into, right?
Right.
So it's a good signaling exercise for the lender, and it's a great way to kind of drive behavior for the borrower too, from our standpoint. So we want to make sure that he pays on time and all of the the right behaviors.
Right. Right. Okay. I think that's a very valid point, right? I mean, reputation. I think it's important in businesses, especially. So, okay, now let's go to the team on the chat. There are some questions just nice. So, Ledrum on the chat asked a question. Is Crowd Genie more focused on peer-to-peer lending or small businesses or both?
We actually only do small business lending because in Singapore, just so that you know, there's a different license for individual lending. It's called a Money Lenders Act.
Okay.
So we will only do SMEs. In other markets, we could look. We probably might, let's say, Australia or other markets. But for the time being in Singapore, it is only SMEs.
Okay, cool. Okay, great. So here's a question. Now, how do you then safeguard your borrowers with Jeannie Shield? I read it on the overview, and Jeannie Shield seems quite interesting. So how do you protect your borrowers with that?
Well, it's more the lenders more than the borrowers.
Oh, the lenders.
Right?
Oh, yeah, the
Yeah,
lenders.
right. So the way it'll work is that the way Genie Shield works, for people who are not aware, is that it's like a provision fund. Every time a borrower is paying money back to the lender, we deduct a certain part and add to the provision fund. This is a common provision fund across all loans. So suppose out of, let's say, 100 borrowers, one has defaulted or delayed, we take the money out of the provision fund, the Genie Shield, and pay back the lenders so that they get the money back on time.
Right.
And when there's a recovery that takes place, we first refill the provision fund from which the money was taken and then pay the money back to the lenders, whatever extra we may have collected. Okay.
Okay.
So from our standpoint, the way we've kind of designed the Genie Shield, right now our default rate is 0%.
Wow.
Right? Market is around 4 to 5% in the SME range. We have put a Genie Shield of around 10%. So up to a default of 10%, so 2x of the market, we feel that our borrowers, our lenders, will actually not see any loss of capital.
Wow. Okay.
All right. So so it's actually a very, very strong protection, if you will, for our lenders. But the important thing, again, and this is where my MAS side comes in, is it's not an insurance. It's not. You can't guarantee it because the provision funds, when it runs out, it runs out.
Yep.
But we've kind of filled it up to the extent right now that we feel that up to 10% loss we've covered completely.
Great. Okay. So the other question that from the team is, what is the current interest or loan in the pipeline that's ready to use, or ready for the lenders? So you're mentioning 3 to 7%, right, for the lenders? Is that right?
Our fees to the lenders, yes.
Oh, the other fees. Okay, cool. Yes. Okay, so okay, this is another question that I myself am quite curious. Right. So on the white paper, it says that the director will be co-investing in some of the investment, right, or some of the projects. Why so? Or why does the director want to do this? Or why does Crowd Genie want to highlight that point? Just curious.
No, it's not some projects, it's all the projects.
Right.
So and when I say the director, it's actually me. So so for me, it is a very tangible way of saying my skin is in the game.
Right.
So you're not kind of, as a lender, I'm not just kind of washing my hands off and say, it's a borrower and a lender, if there's something goes wrong, it's between these two individuals. It's my money on the line as much as it is for the lenders, right? So I make sure that in every listing, I make sure that there is some amount that also goes from me and my co-founder. And as a result of which, for me, it is a question of having the confidence that if I vetted the company, if I think it's good enough to come on my platform, that means that I should be able to I should be comfortable to put my own money on the line along with the other lenders.
Right. Okay. So, okay, Francis on the chat had a question, and this question is with regards to Jeannie show just now. He mentioned, so in that sense about Jeannie show is that the interest rate, it has to be higher than Jeannie show 10%, right? I mean, otherwise Crowd Genie might lose money in that sense. Is that true? Or
yes. So a good question. So what we do is, it's actually not the interest rate that goes up. What happens is our fees. If earlier we would have charged, let's say 2%, we are now charging 4% fees. Okay. And that additional 2% goes, and well, it's not actually 2%, actually more than that. But that additional 2% odd goes into the provision fund directly. Okay. So from a borrower standpoint, you're not seeing an increase. If anybody who's kind of taking a hurt, if it is that my margins are kind of getting reduced a little bit, and the lender's return is reducing a little bit because he's paying a little bit more fees to Crowd Genie to fund for the Genie sheet. But right now, our interest rate yield net of all our fees is 22%. That's pretty high in a market like Singapore where the cost of money is 0. So so from 22, even if it falls to 18 or 15, that's a return that you will not get in a market like Singapore at all.
Right. Okay. All right. So let me get a question from the team. The team has a question from our research group, right? So, okay, the team asks, could you share more about the AI-powered credit scoring engine? This is a question the same from Francis, who asked the same question. He asked, how many data points would then be? Give some of the example of the top few that most important. Yeah.
So we had our AI now it actually keeps increasing the number of variables that we check, because what it does is it's a machine learning algorithm. So you feed in the full balance sheet, P&L, cash flow, the hour assessment, qualitative assessment, and also industry assessment. All of that gets fed into it, and then it kind of comes back with the score. But specifically, let me tell you that we have coded it to have at least 50 variables that go into that thing, into that machine, right? And those 50 variables would be both qualitative and quantitative. There's financials, there's qualitative, there's directors, even the key shareholders, what their credit bureau scores are, how often they have paid the credit card on time. All of that goes into the model. So it's actually fairly comprehensive.
Right. Cool. Okay. So back to, let me see. Okay. So this is with regards to still the business model question. Okay. So I'm going to cover business model, then we go into the ICO and some kind of other questions. All right. So this is from Francis again. He's a big fan of Crowd Genie. Okay. So he said, borrower, escrow, lender, it's very good. But who is this regulated escrow that we are referring to?
Well, I can tell you the name. They're called Padang Trust. You can look them up.
Right.
PADANG Trust. They're a Singapore MAS registered escrow agent.
Okay, cool. That's good. Okay. So then another question that who are some of the legal teams, also for Francis, who are some of the legal team in Singapore, Yeah. So especially when you need to float the loans and stuff. Yeah.
So I will keep this because it's a private group. I'll keep it there.
Right.
But they are probably in the top 5 legal companies firms in Singapore.
Yeah.
If you're in Singapore, you will you can Google them. You'll see they'll pop up in your Google list very, very early.
Cool. Okay. So also for Francis, he asked, how competitive is Crowd Genie's rate, versus a bank for loan, of same amount and same tenure period. So give a quick example.
Actually, we are more expensive. So
Wow,
here's the thing. Why we are more expensive is because banks will typically give a loan for about 12%. We give in the range of between 15 to 18%, or sometimes even 24%.
Right.
Why do we do that? And why are people paying us? Is because they're using us as a top up. So I'm a small company. My bank is saying I can't give you more loan because you've reached the limit.
Credit limit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to make a payment to a vendor because I have an order on hand. They will come to us and they will get the payment from us. So from their standpoint, what they're thinking is, if I get 200 million or let's give it smaller, $200,000 from the bank, and if I get $50,000 from these guys, even at an expensive price, my average rate is not that high. And these loans are very quick, so they will take it for us between 6 to 12 months.
Right.
Back.
Right. Okay, cool. So what is the estimated default percentage? Any defaulting as of now?
So right now it's 0.
All right.
We have not had, all our lenders have actually gotten back their money in all the loans.
Okay.
But our internal measure, like I said, the market average that we kind of work around is 5%. But our business model assumes 10%, just to make sure that we have covered from that standpoint.
Right. So if, let's say, in a situation where there's a defaulter, what are some of the recourses? Just wondering.
So we have we have what is known as personal guarantee of the directors. So every loan is backed by the personal guarantee of each of the directors of the company. So what that means is that if the company does not pay, it becomes a personal liability of the director of the company. Wow. And let's assume that the director of the company does not pay. I can make the director of the company bankrupt. And in Singapore, what that means is that the person can't even travel out of Singapore, the small area, without getting a permission from the board, from the court.
Yeah.
Right. And he or she cannot hold a job till his name is cleared. And they will also not also have a ability to kind of prove or stand guarantee for somebody else, or start up an own company of their own separately. So it's actually a very, very stringent regime here. And that's probably the reason why a lot of fundraising actually happens out of Singapore, because the bankruptcy laws here are very, very strong. Yeah,
definitely. So, okay. Now, okay, so this is from the team, research team. So what is your main form of acquisitions of loan customers? Who determines what type of loans to issue or not?
We determine it. We have exclusive deals with, now we've actually started having people directly approach us, the companies approach us.
Right.
But we also have exclusive deals with loan brokers and arrangers in the market. But the final decision of who to lend and who not to lend only lies with us.
Right.
We're not satisfied with the KYC, we will not put up on our platform.
Great. Okay. All right. So this is with regards to the ICO. All right. Yeah. So there are two main questions here. Now, number one, what are the pre-sales ICO funds raised going to be used for?
Well, they're primarily for, in fact, the sales are actually used for lending onto the platform itself. So around half of the funds will go into lending, and those start generating the cash flows to kind of start buybacks of the tokens. Right. In fact, as early as 3 months after the token sale closes.
Right.
The second part of it is going to be for hiring the team and business development. So we have, if you see our white paper, you will see a lot of advisors on the white paper. These are essentially people who will come on board full time and start from a business development, transaction and payments side, and also from a technical development standpoint to start coming and developing the platform. So the aim is that our first product, according to the roadmap, which is the KYC and all, starts happening as early as 6 to 8 months after we close it.
Okay. So just to clarify, so the bonuses is 50% for pre-sales, right?
That's correct. And the pre-sale ends on 7th of January 2018.
Okay, let me write it down as well. January 2018. Okay, perfect. Okay, this is a great question. Now, there's this question that everyone's asking. All right, so this is with regards to the burning of tokens. Now, of course, we understand this is from the team, from myself, and also from Francis and from some people. Right, it's 80% of burning. And we're kind of worried. What exactly is that 80%?
No. It's not 80%. It's not 80%.
It's not 80%. Okay.
80% of whatever funds, so it's actually in the interest of the token holder. So the way it works is whatever funds CGSPV gets from its loans and all of that on the platform, 80% of the profits are used to buy back the tokens. Okay. And whatever tokens we buy from the market, they are all burnt.
Okay.
Okay. So there's no 80% there. The thing is, what we're saying is that we don't think CGSPV, the entity that is releasing the tokens, has a lot of expenses. It's just literally a pass-through structure.
Okay.
As the money comes in, 80% of that is deemed as whatever the profits are. 80% of that is used to go to an exchange and buy the tokens. And once the tokens comes in, we just basically burn them out.
All right.
They're never released.
Okay. So if an assumption that it's a burning process, so that means to say, how many times are we going to go through this burning process? I mean, what's the limit, or what's the number of hard cap that you got to hit to? You know, what's the projected number then? Is there a projected number?
Well, for us, this is actually a way of returning funds back, you see, for our tokens, because token holders, because that ensures that the price of the token remains high.
Right.
And as the supply goes down, that keeps going higher and higher. So we are releasing 60 million tokens in the market.
Right.
All 60 million can be bought back, because we can remember we're keeping another 60 million for internal platform use.
Right.
So but the 60 that the token holders are keeping, we are open to kind of buying them out. Now, let's say towards the end, there's that one token left that cost $200,000. If we have the money to buy that, we will offer to buy that at $200,000 in the market from the. But the cap is 60 million that will be used to buy back.
Okay, so that means it will be from the exchanges that potentially Crowd Genie will be listed on. Right?
That's
right. Buyback. All right, cool.
That's right.
All right. Okay, so with that being said, this is just out of curiosity, right? Is there a target price that CG, is targeting to hit in the next, say, 2 years or so? I mean, hypothetically speaking. With the burning and stuff happening.
Well, you see, if you look at the math and you look at the fact that a token holder will get, let's assume, 15 to 18% return, because they're lending on the platform, and then there is a buyback that takes place. If I just do the math, our internal projection, and again, we can't commit to that because it's buyback, right? So it's a market thing. But our internal projection is that we should be at least in the range of between 300 to 400 tokens for an Ethereum. Our list price is going to be around 400. So looking at around a 25 or to 30% increase over what it is. Now, don't hold me to it. If it becomes double of that, great. But
no worries. Got your point. Yeah, because it's very speculative, right? Even the crypto market itself is speculative.
That's right.
Got it. So okay, this is quite interesting. So we understand that Crowd Genie is established in Singapore, right? And we know that the projects could be in Singapore, could be in Asia, and we'll start getting there, right, someday. Right. So how do you then raise the awareness to the companies around Singapore, Asia, that, hey, there's Crowd Genie, you can do it via the crypto way, the fiat way. How are we going to do the marketing awareness publicity?
So we have, so there are two parts to this. There one which is the lender side, and the one is the borrower side, right? So on the lender side, we will actually do a mass marketing campaign and business development.
Right.
So we actually kind of thinking of already kind of appointing some agents in some of these markets who kind of talk to the potential lenders there, right? it's on the borrower side that we actually feel that we actually have a pretty good lineup already. So one of our team members, Dr. Philip Tan, he's actually ex CEO of one of the Singapore logistic companies, CPG,
Right.
and he is very well known in the region. So
Okay.
he has a lot of pipe deal flow that he
Mhm.
knows of companies that are looking to raise funds in the market.
Right. Right.
So we actually feel very, very confident that even the number that we put on our website, which is 5 million deal pipeline
Mhm.
right now, is actually understating it by a factor of 2 to 3. It's actually much more than that if we actually go out and start really tapping into that whole segment.
Mhm. Okay, cool. So this is from the team now. Okay, so what if, okay, this is a hypothetical situation, what if, and happens only if Crowd Genie has growing concern problems. What happens to token holders then?
So what will happen is that first of all the monies that come back from the borrowers
Mhm.
are held in escrow by Singapore, in the Singapore escrow. We don't touch the money.
Mhm.
So now the escrow company will actually then just basically send the money to CGSPB, which is a
Right.
token company.
Right.
And then the token company will have somebody there who will kind of just do the buybacks
Mhm.
for that. But the flow of funds will not stop just because the company goes out of business, because the escrow has full instructions to kind of make sure that they are out there to kind of collect all the funds that keep coming in from the borrowers.
Right.
So the borrowers are still on the hook, if you will, till
Okay.
till such time they repay.
All right. So, okay, Francis mentioned this thing. He's actually more worried about defaulters disappearing, in countries where enforcement is lax. If let's say there's a project, for example, right, in maybe Indonesia, how, if let's say the project would go default, then how are we gonna like clamp down on them, or what can we do? I mean, Singapore, we could understand that.
Yeah.
What if that happens?
No, I think that's a great question. That's honestly, Francis, the reason why we've not kind of aggressively gone to markets outside of Singapore. So that let me tell you, the two that we're looking at it as two steps, either in parallel or in sequence. Step one is that you do a lot of these fundraisers in Singapore. So a lot of these Indonesian companies, or for that matter, a lot of companies will have directors whose assets are still in Singapore. They will
Okay.
have a house here. They will have some kind of a holding company here where we can kind of get the assets from them. So we will get that, right? Second thing that we're doing is we're also building together an origination team that vets companies in that side of the world. So
Right.
there's a Jakarta, there's an Indonesia expert who knows what the SME market looks like there. And we will then not give unsecured loans like personal guaranteed loans, but we will actually take secured loans in those markets.
Okay.
So you will have, let's say, a title to a plant or a power plant there in Indonesia if we give a loan to a power plant company there. So we may not actually have the same model that we have in these countries.
So much like a collateral or like a
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Okay, so this particular question is asked by Punadu, all right? He's a nice guy. Okay, anyway,
Hey, I see two bananas there.
Oh, really? Yeah. Big fans, Singaporean. Okay, anyway, so he asked, will the blockchain be implemented to the crowdfunding business? I mean, at the moment, you need KYC for each lender, but with lending process tokenized, you can't exactly track the lenders then.
Why can't you track? So I missed the point.
Because if it's on a blockchain, or it could be from different people, it would be hard to track where is this person particularly coming from, like which country, because it can be just from the blockchain.
Okay.
Yeah,
No, so the first
KYC.
thing is going to be the KYC. So if you see that, we will actually give a digital passport, if you will, for each participant on our ecosystem. So each lender and each borrower will have a token, a blockchain-based identity.
Okay.
And once they have that, that is how we kind of track them on who's lended and who's kind of borrowed from there. So that's why the token kind of becomes quite important, because only people who have that digital passport will have the ability to actually kind of transact on the exchange. Right. So if I'm going to sell out that token to somebody else, I will be able to kind of find out where the token, what the token holder, the seller's identity was, at least on the platform.
Okay. But in a situation, okay, this is still from the chat, but in a situation where CG token is actually on the exchanges, then it's slightly different, right? Because now I can own that CG token, I could send it to the wallet in CG dashboard, and I could buy or I could invest in a certain project. Then how is
No,
that
you
going to be?
can't. You can't.
I
Till such time you don't have your wallet, digital passport on eco on
Ah,
our system. You can't. So
so you
that's
gotta have, so let me clarify that. So you gotta have a KYC, then you have a dashboard, you have a wallet, right? In that sense.
correct.
Then
Correct.
you could invest. So it doesn't matter if I hold CG token, I say I've got 4,000, I still can't invest even I have. Am I right?
Absolutely. So you will become
Alright.
a speculator then. You could go and kind of speculate on the coin
On the
outside of
value.
my ecosystem to
Right.
any exchange. But if you really want to transact and use my ecosystem, you need to go through the KYC. Just from a regulation standpoint, it's important for me to know who the
Right.
lender and who the borrower are.
Right. Is that part of to be compliant with MAS ruling, or it's more like this is just what Crowd Genie is doing?
Well, it's both. So one is to kind of make sure that there is a utility to the token, which is
Right.
intrinsic to the ecosystem, right? So that's
Right.
the first one. And the second
Right.
one is that we think that while MS is not very clear on these regulations, we think that is going to become the case down the road. That they will say, if I'm telling you to do a certain KYC on fiat, I expect the same norms to be followed for crypto or your token.
Right. So just out of curiosity, will the KYC be very laborious, or will it be very simple later on?
Our thing is that we want to keep it as frictionless as possible.
Right.
We actually like what Civic is doing as an ICO, and what they've kind of the processes that they've done, where it's essentially you just put your passport, you take a selfie in, and a magical genie behind the scenes, the curtains kind of figures out everything.
There we go. Make 3 wishes. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Please select 3 projects. That'd be interesting. Okay.
So yeah, that's what we want to do. We don't want to make it too difficult. We will do the hard work, but all we want is your identity documents, your photograph, and actually that's about it. The rest we'll do.
Right. Okay. So yeah, this is just a side joke. Francis is asking you to help to ask Jeannie when is Civic gonna moon in terms of pricing. But this is
I'm the worst person about speculation. If anybody, you should not. Whatever I say, take the opposite, because I've lost so much money in speculation.
Okay, please ignore that, right? This is a fun group. Okay, anyway, so okay, this is like one of the last 2 questions in case the group has, right? So what is the next step for Crowd Genie? What is crucial in order to move, Akshay? What's next? What exactly is next?
For us, the key thing is we need to kind of start building our technical team.
Right.
We need to kind of beef that up to start implementing blockchain into every process that we have, right? The second thing that I would say is we also need to start planning for a regulatory tightening.
Okay.
I suspect what's going to happen is if we go regional, we will have to kind of deal with lots of regulations from different countries. And we need to kind of have a war chest ready with us to kind of make sure we have a legal team, the right kind of processes internally to kind of make sure we kind of are compliant with all of those things. Right. And I think the last thing that I would say is that just from a pure business development standpoint, we need to make sure that we have an adequate supply of both borrowers and lenders. Right now, I think we are actually surprisingly very, very well funded on the borrower side. It's the lender side that we think there's still work to be done to kind of expand the base of lenders for us.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So now, so there are more borrowers. So that means to say the demand for crowdfunding is there.
It's crazy. It's right. It's through the roof, because that's why I keep telling everybody that you look at Straits Times and how Singapore government is helping, Spring is helping people and SMEs and all, but the reality is very different on the market. Right. Their banks are just not lending to the small guys. I mean, it's only to the big Singtels of the world that they will put money in. But the small guys just don't have access to reasonable funds at the right time.
Okay, so what do you think are some of the reasons why they are not, like the banks do not want to loan them? Some of the reasons. I mean,
so I think one is actually very clearly the regulations themselves. So if you've kind of been following the banking industry, they have something called a Basel regulations that come in, which says that if you lend X amount of money, there's some amount of money that has to be kept in reserve on your balance sheet.
Right.
Now, and the Basel way, the way it works is if you lend to a bank, to another country, or to an investment grade company, you need to put a lower amount on your balance sheet. If you put it to a risky company, you will have to put almost the whole amount and maybe some more on your balance sheet.
Right.
So if I'm a bank, even if I want to lend it to you as a small business, I have to put exactly the same amount on my balance sheet as reserve.
Okay.
So I'm kind of tying up my capital, whereas I could then just, rather than doing that, I just go and give it to Singtel, which is a AAA rated company, and I only need to put 5 to 10% on my balance sheet. Right.
Makes sense.
So banks don't want to kind of tie up their money.
Right. Okay. So if let's say Crowd Genie currently has some legacy customers, right, built on the reputation for the last 2 years, are you gonna onboard them onto the new platform?
Yes, we will. Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. So is it possible to share some of the new projects that will be coming up in the next few months to come?
Yeah, well, we've got one which is a food distributor who he runs a Pokemon-based snacks in Singapore and the region.
For real? All right. I'm a big fan of Pokemon. Okay.
He's got the distributorship of Pokemon branded and snacks that is coming out. Really good cash flow. This guy is he's grown. He's started from about 200,000 last year. He's actually clocking around $1 million of revenue as we speak.
Wow. Okay.
6 to 8 months. Now he's looking to kind of grow. He wants to get into events now around Pokemon, around the region. So that's kind of one. We've got a clean energy plant in Indonesia that's looking to kind of raise funds.
Nice.
They have an interesting model there. They instead of charging the customer upfront, they charge by use. So everybody has a meter in their house. They kind of put in coins into their electricity meter at the house, and they get electricity. So it's like a a phone, like an old phone that we used to have. You pay $10 and you can get so many hours of electricity in your house.
Nice.
So they have a pretty good cash flow again going for them.
So it's like a vending machine for electricity.
That's right. So if I'm a villager, if I don't want electricity or a fan at night because the weather is cool, I don't want to pay. I just don't put money into the meter.
Right. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Okay.
So pretty interesting projects.
Yeah. So in terms of auditing, in terms of bookkeeping, is there anything with regards to the bookkeeping or auditing side? So Francis did mention a good point about auditors and the bookkeeping process. I mean, it's a huge crowdfunding project, right? I mean, for this different project. So is there going to be something like that for a separate market?
Yeah. I mean, look, I need to give my books to MAS every month. So, so whether Francis, you want it or not, I'm on the hook every month to make sure my accounts and bookkeeping is absolutely current. And if it's wrong, I will have a lot of repercussions.
Right. So Francis actually mentioned not Crowd Genie per se, because you understand Crowd Genie will do the due diligence, but on the borrowers instead. Is there anything on them to keep with?
We can't actually, because we don't keep on a regular basis. But what we do is, like I said, the reason why the reputation coins make a lot of sense is for that. So if I give him the reputation coins, which is essentially free money, if you will, for him, it's in his interest to make sure that he pays well and he shares his data with us. One of the big questions that we have of borrowers is, if you give us your real-time access to your bank statements or bank account, we can give you a discount on your interest rate, right? Because then I can actually see how your cash flows are working, balances are working, on a daily basis. Right now, it's something that we do, but it's not fully automated to the extent that it's not in his interest to say, okay, so why should I do that for you? Whereas there, I can actually kind of really incentivize him in a lot of different ways on how to kind of make that happen.
Right.
And it's totally it kind of feeds into the AI engine literally on a daily basis. So we kind of keep on top of what's happening.
Okay. Okay. So Francis, again, his questions are kind of nice. Okay. He said, the due diligence is a lot of work. Okay. I'm fine tuning his words at the same time. It's a lot of work, right? So can the Crowd Genie team handle as of now, or is it coming after the ICO process?
No, we have a team of about 3 or 4 people who do just that. But you're right, it is a tough process, but at the same time, that's a core process. So we don't kind of cut corners on that one at all. And I think we also, going forward, believe that we will be able to kind of handle the load. Two reasons. One is by increasing the staff that we have.
Right.
Second thing is also working with the right originators or loan brokers in the market. A lot of the pre-vetting is actually done by them. They will, if they know that, hey, we are well, not honest, but we are the guys who are more credible. They will bring only a certain type of cases to us. They will probably just not bring the riffraff, if you will, to platforms like us. There are other gray market people in the market here, even in Singapore, that they might go to, but not to us. So it's also a question of making sure you have the right partners in the ecosystem.
Right. Okay. So please hold on a second. The team is still typing. Still gonna see what they have. Yeah. But I understand it's a long day, so I'm gonna end it soon for you. No. Yeah. You're okay?
I'm fine. Francis, I hope you're investing in our ICO, pre-ICO.
I'm not sure, Francis. Okay. Let me see if I have any last questions for you. I mean, thank you. But once again, Akshay, thanks for coming on today.
No, thank you. Appreciate you inviting me, and I really appreciate the kind of the richness of the questions that are there. I think it just shows that people have had taken the trouble of kind of going through the white paper, and that's really nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because I mean, at Crypto Brothers especially, we kind of encourage them to do their own duty. I think that's even crucial. I mean, you're parting your own money, so it's even more important to do that. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, I think they are kind of satisfied. They are very satisfied with your answer. In fact, some of them are praising you. This guy is pretty smart. So
thank you.
Actually, they are pleased with your answers, right? So
thank you so much.
If they still have any questions, I'll probably highlight to you privately, and then we could get some questions answered.
I appreciate that. And as we have our website landing page, there's a contact us page if there's any questions. I personally look at all the questions that come there. Right. So even though I may not answer, but I make sure that whatever the responses are there are actually both prompt. And at least I have had a chance to kind of vet them how we respond to them. So feel free to kind of ask me from that forum. Okay.
So actually, any last statement, words, or anything to share with the group with regards to the ICO, with regards to the project, with regards to anything? This is your time.
Thank you. No, I think for me, the key thought that I will leave behind is that what you're really potentially investing in is a credible business team who are licensed and who are operational for some time. So I'm not selling some future dreams to you. Right. I have a track record of cash flows. You can kind of come and take a look at what we do. You can actually even come to our office, or you go to MAS website and you can see us listed there. Right. So we are not somebody who are selling you dreams, or something who's very, very tangible and real. What we may sometimes lack in marketing sophistication, we hopefully make it up in making sure that we deliver on the promise that whatever you're investing through the tokens to us, we will actually go out and deliver that.
Right. Okay. I think this is a perfect summary for tonight. All right. So thank you so much for coming on, Akshay. I understand you're a busy man. So thank you. Keep rocking on Crowd Genie platform, and of course we will be helping you as well here and there. But of course, I'm giving a very unbiased session here. So
I appreciate that.
But thank you so much, Akshay. Yeah.
Thank you. Have fun.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night. Take care.
Bye.